This speech is looking at the Scouts and how at their origin, when the movement was first founded, the different tests that they would have to do for the different badges were far more demanding than they are in the modern day. So it's nothing too crazy in terms of vocabulary. I will just be quickly introducing the idea and then talking about three different badges. I'll be talking about the agriculture badge and what you had to do for that, the archery badge, and then finally I will be talking about bird watching, or ornithology as it gets referred to. Let's begin. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. When I first moved to Belgium, I was fairly well prepared for the various better known aspects of the culture, the stereotypical fries, waffles, beer, the split between the Wallonians and the Flemish, and so on. One element of the culture that caught me completely off guard, however, was the Scouts movement. I was not aware that it had a much stronger presence here than it does in the United Kingdom. While the Scouts are certainly well known and reasonably popular amongst the young, I myself was a Cub Scout as a child, the broader movement is much better represented here in Belgium. This is perhaps surprising, given that the Scouts were originally a purely American movement, which has since spread across the world. This is not to say that the movement has remained unchanged over the 100 years since its inception, of course. And today I would like to examine a few ways in which the skills required of young Scouts have evolved over time. That is to say that this is a list covering some of the badges earned by Scouts in 1911 and the truly incredible, insanely challenging requirements that they had to fulfill. So, a common staple among 1911 badges is requirements which ask you to be able to do something without actually having to prove that you can do it. The first merit badge for agriculture is a good example. This badge asks Scouts to know some basics about crop husbandry. That's about it. You just have to know how to grow crops, how to identify and describe common weeds in the community, and talk about how best to eliminate them, or maybe identify common insects and talk about how to deal with those. However, one stipulation for this badge is a little different. To earn this badge, the young Boy Scout must grow at least an acre of corn, which produces 25% better than the general average. The first Boy Scouts had to grow an acre of corn to get this badge. An acre is equal to 16 tennis courts. 16 tennis courts of corn. And if your dad was a farmer, then everybody would know that you had cheated. I mean, how would you grow any cornfield bigger than a garden without that infrastructure already in place? And remember, this is at least an acre. That is the bare minimum. This isn't even to mention that apparently a child would have to produce a yield 25% better than the general average. So what, if you could only produce corn at 24% better than the general average? Well, guess what? You've just wasted 60 to 100 days planting and harvesting 40 bushels of corn. Sorry. A second badge is archery. Archery has always been a staple of Boy Scout camps and the most boring portions of the Olympics. Today there is a surprising amount of technology involved, much more than there was in 1911. So it's puzzling that one of the steps to get this badge back then, after making your own bow, of course, was to practically recreate the legend of Persian soldiers blotting out the sun with their arrows. To obtain a merit badge for archery, a scout must not only make a bow and arrow which will shoot a distance of 100 feet with fair precision, they must also accomplish various accuracy challenges, and finally, shoot so far and so fast as to have 6 arrows in the air at the same time. Lars Andersen, a master archer from Denmark, has claimed to have broken the world record for having the most arrows in the air at once before one comes down. He gets 11 up there before the first one hits the grass in about 7 seconds. That is with a modern bow and arrow. The Boy Scout manual wanted these children to get half the world record from 100 years in the future with a homemade bow. Perhaps then we might reasonably expect more realistic demands from something a little more sedate, a little more normal, such as ornithology. After all, how hard can bird watching be? Unfortunately, to obtain a merit badge for ornithology, a scout must 1. Have a list of 100 different kinds of birds personally observed on exploration in the field. And 2. Have identified, beyond question, by appearance or by note, 45 different kinds of birds in one day. That's right. In order to be awarded this badge, you need to come across pretty much every species of bird available to your local area. It would be unusual to find a zoo which housed over 100 different species of bird, let alone in the average neighbourhood. Furthermore, as mentioned, these birds have to be identified beyond question. No guesswork allowed. And if you're unable to do that, then it seems you are not a true scout. So then, ladies and gentlemen, we can see that the demands made of past scouts are quite likely beyond the skills of even adult scouts today. And while the principles of helping others and respect for nature are certainly still valuable and relevant in the modern age, I feel that if I had to try out for any of the original badges, I would probably go for the personal health badge, which, amongst other things, calls for an observation of the effects of alcohol upon the body. Thank you for your attention.